definitely my doubts about this being a horn, if you will, a crest, were eliminated when I saw that cross-sectional view. I thought that was pretty neat. The long-rumored scimitar spine Spinosaurus is now out, and it's been named Spinosaurus mirabilis or mirabilis. I haven't even heard it said out loud yet. A new species of Spinosaurus with this cool, incredibly tall crest. They note that this crest would be the tallest crest of any of these dinosaurs that are roaming around. And it makes sense. The crest that they found not one, but they found 3 crests. The skull, they found these 5 bones here. And these are their bones they found. They found some 5 teeth. They found a partial maxilla. They've got this premaxi bit. And they have the crest. So they've got the 5 bones. And then in another locality, they found additional cranial elements. And so they were able to layer all of those cranial elements together to build a composite skull. And as you see here on this crest figure, the light blue is the holotype crest. And this area here is the thickness of the crest at that point. And beneath it is the traditional Spinosaurus crest. And you can see how much longer that crest is and how much thicker it is than the mirabilis. So definitely my doubts about this being a horn, if you will, a crest, were eliminated when I saw that cross-sectional view. I thought that was pretty neat. And they spell out very clearly that the cross-hatching bluish-green color is a second specimen, and that little gray tip is where they think that the bone would have terminated. And then they drew this additional crest around it, and they believe that this crest would have reached, with a keratinous sheath, almost 20 inches in height. So nearly 2-foot tall crest coming off of it. The crest of that right here, right down the midline, is not directly straight up and down. It's not perfectly bilaterally symmetrical. It's bent. And this illustration shows how all 3 crests show bending. Now, the scientist in me wants to look at a CT scan to see, are those osteocytes tortured because it was taphonomically bent after it died in over 95 million years? Or is that the way they were? One of the things that I long ago noticed was the cassowary casque is not perfectly straight. It invariably has a tilt to it. They provide an image of one. None of them are straight. They're all bent in some capacity, which is pretty cool. So that does lend another element of interest of perhaps the casque, if the Spinosaur crest was really truly for display. As an aside, these casques are extremely pneumatic. And that pneumaticity I also appreciated because they describe, let me find it here, they defined a casque as a keratin sheathed, rarely feathered, cranial ornament underlain by highly pneumatized bone in birds and non-avian theropods. And they go on to show a picture of a casque. It shows the vascularization, and it shows on a modern cassowary where there's keratin. And that keratin is really a lot of that bend, as you can see it in the keratinous sheath on the top of the head. They go further and look at the crests that they found, and they note that the crests have cross-hatching. And that cross-hatching, they argue, is indicative of the presence of a keratinous sheath. Further, they did a nice CT scan, and they note the internal vascularity, the red lines there, that there's a lot, and they split. So there's a lot of blood flowing up into this crest. And it's thought that that blood could be supplying the keratinous sheath. So again, they show a picture of cassowaries, and you can see the lines, and some of these lines are where the arterial system goes. So they do a nice job of giving anecdotal evidence of why that crest is likely highly vascularized and likely had keratin and was probably for display. They have one of the cutest charts that I've had the pleasure of seeing in a dinosaur, in a non-avian dinosaur paper. I read avian papers, and these are very colorful animals, the birds. And they show these individual, and they list 5 taxa. The southern cassowary, which is one this is super cool to see, and it has a casque. But they also show the black casqued hornbill, which to my knowledge I have not seen in person. I've seen a dozen species of hornbill, or a lot of species, I don't know about a dozen, and I don't recall seeing that one. I'll have to look through my photo archive. But their hornbills are really cool because they have this keratinous outer sheath. And in their case, the casque is made of their premaxillae. Wildly, the front of their mouth area, right behind the beak, makes up this whole horn. Whereas in a cassowary, that is made by a bunch of skull bones coming up inside. They also look at the casque of some animals I got to spend time with in Africa, guinea fowl. In this case, they chose the helmeted guinea fowl. And it's also highly pneumatized. And it's made of their frontal bone. So a different part of the bone builds the casque. And that becomes important because in Spinosaurus mirabilis, 2 bones contribute to the casque, where in Spinosaurus aegyptiacus, only 1 bone is contributing to the crest. And I said casque, but we'll call them crest in both cases. So they show this nice CT scan of a cassowary, as well as a guinea fowl down here, but they also show a bird you may not have heard of, the macrocephalon, which is also known as the maleo. And they show a picture of the maleo in this colored chart because it has what they define as a crest. And their crest definition is cornified or keratin sheath, laterally compressed, sagittally or parasagittally cranial ornament, underlain by bone with little or no pneumatization. But now we can start delineating crests versus casques with very specific meanings, which is very important when we're talking about things. And they provide the maleo, a bird many people have not seen or heard of, and then the horned guan, which is another bird you might not have seen. And it has this cute cornified little crest coming straight up the top. Very cool to see. So I like the inclusion of all of this great imagery that help make the case for the casque or the crest being covered in a keratinous sheath. And they bring all of these birds together, especially the point of their colored image of the birds is because the birds seem to use these for communication, for display purposes. Hey, check me out. I'm the right species. I'm the right sex. They use them to convey, who knows what birds go on. They sing. They have all kinds of ways to communicate. But that's another way they use to communicate is the logic. And the thought is Spinosaurus was doing the same thing with this big crest. We think the big crest on Hadrosaurs was used for species identification, sexual selection. So it's likely the case with theropods as well. So great, neat part of the paper. I really enjoyed diving in deep as they went into the crests. As you can tell, because I'm still talking about it 10 minutes later. So who am I? I'm Dr. Brian Curtis. I'm a paleontologist here at Fossil Crates. Thank you all kindly for watching to the end. I appreciate that greatly. Feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends and family how cool it is. Check out our other social media pages as well. And I'm certain that I will respond. I respond to all the comments. I'm the person that does it. Thank you kindly. Adios.